With us today we have Eran Bar Tal, who is a friend in the sovereignty, and he's in our sovereignty committee since the beginning. He is with us and gives us the whole idea of the economical portion of it. Today he is the editor economic of Israel Hayom, and with us also Amatzia Samkai, who's editor of the Sovereignty and Regafim and Shdulat Eretz Israel. The research, the economical research, the first one, what's going to happen economically if Judea and Samaria in the state of Israel will be one. We don't know. We're going to have two important guests. Amatzia is going to be in our future. We're going to have further in Petach Tikva. Everything depends on our work here today and tomorrow and getting the money. And anybody who wants Yoram's plan has to work. We're inviting Eran Bar Tal to hear. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm joining with a call of this organization. If you think how revolutions happen, major revolutions, we can think about, I think about many examples. The classical examples is that we teach kids at school is about the Industrial Revolution, and after that there was the American Revolution and the French Revolution and many other revolutions. We don't notice the connection between them. The revolutions, the social revolutions, were after the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution is not a revolution that was social, political one, but it was an attempt, it was a private initiative that forward a whole revolution that everybody has to relate to it, social and policy-wise. The social way that came from it was women in green, and this is the work of, from the beginning, of having sovereignty enacted. It's not a political group, it's a social group that got you and other people and me and Amatzia and created a group of people that understand that this change will happen, and we want to make it. Having sovereignty is something we're already doing without even noticing. Yoram spoke about preparing the land, and we also have the heart preparation all the years to bring people and show them what we are talking about. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying about friends. Many of my friends that came to my age still their foot had never been to Judea and Samaria, and they can live all their life in the shoreline area and going abroad without coming here ever to Judea and Samaria. And I can tell you the change will happen, and I can tell you from me, started in the beginning of 90s. I came to visit friends in Judea and Samaria, and that created a change in the feeling and in the mind more than any lecture or any article that you read in the newspaper. This is why it's important to show people what we're talking about. One of the stories, the beautiful stories that I heard in a previous conference we had a few years back, is about guests that came from Jordan, and they crossed and went towards Tel Aviv. Two business people from Jordan, and when they saw Tel Aviv from far, they held their head and said to the Israeli, "Whoa, you wouldn't even move from here." Until they didn't see it with their own eyes, they didn't understand the enormity. It's not talk, it's not articles, it's not air type of fights. We live here. They saw it, and when you see it, it's very strong. And people that travel in Judea and Samaria and see Judea and Samaria about 15, 20 years back, and more understand that it's not just speech, that nobody's going to move from here, and it's part of us, and it's our land, and you can't give that to any other way to understand. And your going into is very important to togetherness with this. We don't understand how much we are involved in this revolution until it's happening. And the 2-day effort that you put in these 2 days is more important than anything we can understand now. I join you to this call of working hard on this. When we do panels all during the years, we learn to contend with all kinds of emergencies against sovereignty. And one of the things that from the beginning was very silly was, let's assume that you convince us that it's not possible for economically. What do you want to do with all these Arabs? What do you want to do with all of them? You're going to have to give them rights, and it's going to cost you a fortune. That Israel will just crash and wouldn't be able to stand with it. And as Judith said, Amatzia did an amazing work, very important, that dealt with sea, but it teaches us about the whole entire Judea and Samaria. The work that Amatzia did that looked at one thing as absorption and the assessment of national security and Bituach Leumi, that I think that one of the issues that having sovereignty is that we have a chance to stop many, many lies that we live with that do really horror for us in this country. A few days after publishing the report of poor people in Israel, we see that it's really an attack on our society, that we're really a country of really poor people. Every third child is poor, and every second citizen is poor. We're a little bit more connected to the reality than this report. It's a lie. It has a purpose to, in order to buy the society of the Arabs, we have to get rid of a few lies. We have to get rid of a few lies that used to eat from the media, the leftern media. Of course, forget about it. I mean, only Israel gives you some. We're used to have these lies and believe us that we're a really poor state. We're not a poor state. We're a very rich country. They're very flourishing. We have a lot of strength that we know or are willing to admit. We are able to absorb, and it's not only we can absorb the Arab population in Judea and Samaria, but if we say in a closed quarters that we must absorb them, it's something that is necessary in order to have a developed country. What we see in Europe, we have lack of workers. There's no unemployment in Israel and other states in Europe, and also not in the United States, the big United States. There's no unemployment. There's the opposite issue. If academai, like people that are finished university, or a young Israeli or a woman is unemployed, they could be unemployed 3 or 4 years, but they wouldn't work in construction or in farming. They'll get along the way they are. So that means that we need workers, and we don't have the ability to fulfill it ourselves. This is the story everywhere in the developed countries. This is what happens in Europe, and it happens in the United States and in Australia. The young people, even if you put them into work, they wouldn't go to like necessary or like simplistic type of work. The political pressure is that the government will bring Chinese and Romanian workers, not from Judea and Samaria, that are already here, that they want to work. They need the money, and the unemployment is difficult, and the need for us is great. But there's something that makes sense to join this poor people that don't have work to the workforce. And the answer is, usually, but they are terrorists and they're going to kill us and all this and that. It's answers of scaredy cats because they can't see beyond their nose. Because if we're creating interest that is different, we know we had times not in far back that when there was different interests, then they did join the workforce. There used to be more workers from Judea and Samaria in Bar Tal 6 and 7 years ago than today. We don't notice that there is issues that are making them flee. There's nobody that brings them close and brings them back. The BDS that took away many of the workers away that used to live in cooperation and coexistence, and I used to work in Nitzanim and in Barkan, that there's a mosque in the middle of the factory, and they have a new place, and it's with a mosque in order to absorb the workers, and it used to be less than it used to be. Less workers are Arabs in this particular area of Barkan, and somebody yells, it has to be a war of ours, not just an interest of theirs. But it's a different story. Our interest should be to bring these workers closer and absorb them and incorporate them in the work, because that's the important thing to do for us. It's not Chinese workers that we have to absorb them and they're going to move around in Central Station bus. It's like Mexicans in the United States. At the end of they can go to at the end of the day to Mexico. If they let us there, they don't always let them. We have to do this in order. It's our interest. And when we see sovereignty as an act that is out of reality, it's necessary. After we try every other option, we'll understand. All of us will understand that there's no other option but to have sovereignty in reality, that we give it. Even now we're doing it, but not everybody accepting it, and there's no other choice. I think there's a majority in Israel that it's a blessed change that happened not in many years. There's a majority that understand, that goes against all this 2 states for 2 nations, especially because they understand there's no 2 nations. Finally, there's something that we have to appreciate, that it's a positive change in our ears, that we don't notice that there's one nation, the nation of Israel, that in reality is one nation. In Oslo time, it wasn't just one nation. And we saw in reality, if we ask people in the area of the center how big it was, there were many people that felt closer to the Arab side than the Israeli side, and we spoke about Judea's nation. It wasn't so past. There was a change that was immense. That, in my opinion, it's a very good opportunity for a change, a revolution of having sovereignty enacted, and that we opened our eyes from the silliness of 2 states to 2 nations. We understand that on the other side there's no nation, there's only one nation, and we could have 5 or 6 nations, but definitely not one nation. They don't feel that way. They're not united that way. It's useless to really work on it because it doesn't hold water even if we try. In our case, shouldn't be a war on opposite. We have to strengthen our beliefs. It's happening, and Judea and Samaria is being built. There's people that are living there in these factories, and there's big, places to shop, and it wasn't there, and commercial centers. People can live and build their lives in Judea and Samaria. They don't have to get out and go to Tel Aviv or that area and go back home to Judea and Samaria to sleep. The revolution is already happening. There's many people that don't need to go to the central area. They can live here the entire life, and people that don't go back and forth to Judea and Samaria. So now there's people in Judea and Samaria that don't go out. It's a very good positive way, and as much as we bring more people that will develop and have reasons to come here to Judea and Samaria. We'll open the hearts and prepare ourselves for the next steps. Anyhow, and we have no doubt that workers, the Arab workers in Judea and Samaria are necessary, and they can be a doubling of our force. It's not a problem, it's not a monetary issue, or it's not just an issue of price, it's also income. Every worker is an income for the state, it's not just for his family. People are not having them just to give them money free, they have them to make money. And the state could make a lot of money from involving more workers in Judea and Samaria. In the lands we spoke about, in efforts to assess how much money the land values of Judea and Samaria is worth, a day after the enacting of sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, we can try to assess, which is a very big grand amounts today, but what will be a day after having sovereignty, which is just a declaration. So Yoram can tell you about the declaration of what it can do to the land. But what is the value of agriculture land, and what is the change after they declare it as a... It's two different things. It's not just land. It's something different totally, entirely. Somebody assessed this value. It's a revenue that is amazing, that is in cash. It's waiting for us. Somebody will wake up and take it and make it real. It's our land. It's there. And it wouldn't be just for the nation of Israel. It would be also for the good of Arabs of Israel. That in our way that are supposed to feel like they're occupied, because what we are doing is when we don't do anything, it's like occupied. It's like making them into pickled things. Pickled. You pickle cucumbers. It's like they're the same. We leave the land and we wait, and it's kibush. It's an occupation of some sort of it's in order to finish this pickling process. It's like having sovereignty is the one way that we've finished this pickling waiting period. From any other angle, and there's three different angles that we could look for economic ways about the situation. There's the population, the land, and the revenues. In all those issues, the balance is positive and revenue-wise, and we will succeed from this process. The two sides, the nation of Israel and the Arabs, they are stuck in this freezing situation, pickling situation. It's not good for us if we wait another 100 years. For them, it's not going to do any benefit. For economically-wise, what is selling us that it's not possible, that it's not probable or possible, it's not only possible, it's the best solution for the life standards of us and the Arabs. And because of that, it's going to happen, because there's no other solution. You gave three solutions, but two is catastrophical reason that we're not going to happen, because there's no force that comes. Anybody that visited Israel before Israel was founded in 1948, anybody that reported, the stories like that Israel was clear that it's going to be built by Jews, because we understood who is building. You could see all the other countries around, who's building and who's destroying, who is problematic, who bothered them building. They had the ability, they had the money, they could have built, they could have made roads and have health systems and education system if they really wanted to have a state of their own, but they're not doing it. you could see that they didn't build their own state, and they don't have the wanting to do it. The first people that came to Israel, their settlers showed it by action. The first settlers that came and the second settling groups, they came here to build a state, and they were willing to endanger their lives. They created settlements. They had a future vision of a state before it was even real. It doesn't mean anything, the real declaration. So everything we do here is not connected. It's not connected to the declaration that was formal. What we do here is building and creating hearts that are open for the idea that that's the target of this organization, to explain people what's going to happen. It's not that we're going to do this. It's going to happen anyway. This is where our face is coming. With us and without us, it's going to happen. It's something that is in process, not that nobody just personally built Israel. The declaration about Israel, there was only after that the state was already we had an army, we had economy, we had factories, we had people that were born here. There was a state in actuality, and all what they needed to do is to just declare the formal act of having it. And this is what we have to do, is to have the real sovereignty. It would be like a declarative way, and all the acts should lead there to the opportunist. Somebody will cut the ribbon and be ready and sign, like having the American embassy moved. Somebody who has the tenacity to do it, but he has to have everything ready to have sovereignty. To have this population, we have to do the steps now and explain people what's going to happen in the future and what's the goodness that is going to come forward. It's not bad areas, and it's positivity only. We're not going to occupy areas. We're not going to hurt people. We're not going to expel people. We're not going to do anything terrible. We're doing just good things, just building. Positive. To bring Jews, that was the clear way of what they declared to be a homeland for the Jewish people. It's something we forgot, unfortunately, and very few people that are reminding him. If the Minister of Treasury build and called it Mechil Mishtaken, the price for every settler that brings Jews that will buy lands, he forgets about the target to bring Jews here. When I ask him, as a news person, what about the Jews that want to buy a house? As a kid, that was more Jews will buy a house in Eretz Israel. And what about that dream? And it's not my voters, it's the young people that are my voters. You can ask too. You didn't forget something about in your housing plan? But it has to be something out of our diskette, because when we speak about Yoram, about the target and the vision, you don't talk about 6 million Jews, you talk about a vision of the Jewish nation. And every minister that has a plan has to know that we expect him for a plan that is not just for us, but for the entire nation of Israel. Our position is not to think about just ourselves, but also the nation of Israel. We don't have a reason to be here just for that. The nation of Israel was created in 1948 with 600,000, and let's just worry about just 600,000 people to have it good. We don't really need a state. The state from the beginning has to be a nation of the Jewish people, and not all the nation of Israel is here. It's still in the diaspora. And what we have to think about is to have everybody who's in the diaspora that is not here. The revolution doesn't happen in one particular spot in the future, that they're going to sign the sovereignty into action, and the Knesset is going to decide to have sovereignty. It's going to happen. But before that, we have preparation or steps. like acknowledging that we're building here a state for the Jewish nation and not for our benefits. After this organization position is we have 2 days of doing a boost and giving to promote these issues quicker. As I said, I don't have a doubt this is going to happen. And God willing, they're going to happen quicker. So thank you, everybody.